Holy freaking duckballs! The NBN has decided to make the internet lives of Australian users even more harder and expensive. Hi, I'm Jenny, and this is Jen's Little Corner. Experts have issued a stark warning after the National Broadband Network, NBN, suggested a potential price hike for customers who watch Netflix, Stan, and other bandwidth-snapping streaming services. NBN Co. floated the idea to see if retail providers such as Telstra, Optus, TPG would enforce higher rates for customers streaming on the troubled network. Now, I don't know how any of you feel about this, but given the fights for net neutrality in the US and abroad, I'm really disappointed in our wholesale provider, our monopoly wholesale provider, that now wants to put another tax on the people of Australia who just want to be able to watch their shows when they want to watch them. We are already paying for these streaming services. And we are paying for our internet. We shouldn't have to pay again just to be able to stream the data from the service. Now, I understand over here we have requirements that we have to sit under for bandwidth usage, which some of our compatriots in the US and other countries don't have, and we certainly have a third-rate internet in Australia. I think we're rated like 46th in the world. But do we really have to wear this tax on our internet? We already pay an exorbitant rate for our internet in Australia, and having to pay extra on top, it just blows my mind. The fact that they would even think this is a good idea, that they think this would be palatable with the public. I find it amazing that anyone in a policy-making position at the NBN could think this is a good idea. RMIT University Electronic and Telecommunications Associate Professor Mark Gregory said there had never been an official net neutrality law in Australia because all content providers have been treated equally with no artificial barriers in place. This has a lot to do with Australia's competition protection laws, he told the 9 News. If an ISP was to offer a bundle with a streaming service and then throttle competitor services, it would be a breach of these laws. Mr. Gregory also said NBN's proposal is different as the taxpayer-funded infrastructure business is proposing to tax all streaming providers. Now, we could talk here about how the NBN has been a rather large waste of money within Australia, that the government threw money after a subpar system which ended in the vain hopes that it would save them money, but ended up costing them more than if they'd gone with the high-quality fibre-to-the-home system to start off with. But let's not even mention that. Let's mention the fact that the NBN isn't able to market itself in such a way that it's making enough money from what it's doing when it is the only player in the marketplace. So it now wants to tax the Australian people who have paid through their taxes to have this thing put in place in the first place, so that we can watch the TV shows we're already paying a provider to be able to watch. Mr. Gregory said the plan would hit struggling Australians, while NBN would benefit. The cost of internet is already higher than it should be in Australia, and by putting an additional charge on streaming media, the primary use of internet for the vast majority of households, it would reduce usage on the network because some people couldn't now afford the service. That's great for the NBN, because anything that reduces traffic on the poorly built network would increase speeds and would mean the NBN wouldn't have to pay to upgrade the infrastructure. He added, any levy on streaming would be damaging to content rights holders. If you make the product more expensive, people will turn back to privacy because they simply can't afford the legal avenues. And this here is the crux of the problem. We are already stuck with having to have at least a couple of streaming service providers for getting our visual content. We have YouTube, we have Netflix, we have Stan, we have Amazon, we're going to have Disney. That's an awful lot of services to pay for if you want to have your content. If we're on top of that going to have to pay extra money to the NBN to just have it streamed to us, then no one's going to do that. People are going to go back to pirating, back to downloading illegally, because that's not going to be hit by this. We're not going to pay extra for downloading shit illegally. So who loses? The content creators? We as consumers lose? And ultimately, the Australian public loses. This is a lose-lose plan from the NBN. Okay, short-term financial gain for them, but long-term? No, this is bad for Australia, bad for Australia's economy, and bad for our image around the world. This needs to be knocked on the head. Now that's what I think, but why don't you tell me what you think? This has been Jen's Little Corner. I'm Jenny, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, or subscribe down below if you haven't already. And remember, try not to gag on the selfie stick.